Hi guys, welcome back. This is Sean from Play by Pause, and today we're going to talk about recording format from the FX3. As I mentioned earlier from the previous video, we're going to compare two different file formats from the FX3s. First is the internal 10-bit 422x AVC file versus the Apple ProRes RAW 12-bit from the Atomos Ninja 5. Before we proceed any further, let me give you guys a quick explanation about ProRes RAW. Atomos has been working alongside Sony to bring the Apple ProRes to its external monitors, which is the Ninja 5. This can be easily activated by connecting to a Sony FX3 over HDMI. From what I know, FX3 is capable of shooting 16-bit RAW, but Atomos Ninja 5 is only capable of shooting 12 bits Apple ProRes RAW, which means anything that you shoot using the Atomos Ninja 5 is limited to 12 bits. That says even it's only shooting 12 bits footage, but you are still creating a 12-bit footage using a 16-bit data. So my question for this video is, what exactly is ProRes RAW, and is it worth spending the extra money to get an extra monitor to unlock the ProRes 12-bit footage over the internal 10-bit 422x AVC file? Well, today we're going to find out. My first question, what exactly is ProRes RAW and what's so special with it? To keep it simple, ProRes RAW is a compressed RAW codecs developed by Apple, and is fully compatible with a wide range of editing software such as Premiere Pro and FCP. In other words, you can easily edit ProRes RAW straight out of these two editing software smoothly. But something to keep in mind, you can't really edit or grade ProRes RAW using DaVinci Resolve without any conversion. And this is why B-RAW makes so much sense if you're a Resolve user. Let's talk about setup. First thing first, you need to get an Atomos Ninja 5. Next, make sure you have updated the latest versions, which is 10.63 or later, to enable the Apple ProRes RAW for FX3. If you haven't, feel free to download their firmware updates from the official website. You can just simply drag and drop their firmware file to an SSD, read the SSD from the Atomos Ninja 5, and you're good to go. Once you have the latest firmware, now you can go to camera setting, scroll down to setup, external output, HDMI output settings, turn on the RAW output, and you're good to go. Few things to keep in mind when you enable ProRes RAW output. Now you're restricted to 4.2K resolution only. You can't change the frame rate from the camera setting, but not to worry, you're still able to change the frame rate, but through their RAW output setting instead. Lastly, you are stuck with one picture profile, which is the S-Log. I know there's a few drawbacks, but next is going to be good news. So right now, the ProRes RAW enables us to fully utilize the full 16:9 sensor from an FX3, and which means now we are shooting 4.2K ProRes RAW, which is 4264 x 2408. The extra resolution definitely helps in terms of the general sharpness, but it comes with a few cons, which leads to the next topic. As you may already know from a previous video, FX3 comes with three different stabilizations. First is the internal 5-axis in-body stabilizations. Second is the active stabilization, but it comes with 1.1 crop. Next, my favorite, post-gyro stabilization with the catalyst bulbs. Since Apple ProRes unlocked the 16:9 full sensor, therefore active stabilization is enabled. Same goes to post-gyro. Sony Catalyst Browser couldn't recognize the files, and there's no longer any metadata or stabilized icons on the footage. To me, it's not really a deal breaker because I use Gimbal a lot for my projects, and the IBIS itself, in general, it did a pretty good job overall. Since Atomos and Apple have worked closely together with the ProRes RAW, so there's no surprise that you can have a smooth editing process from the FCP or Premiere Pro. On the other hand, XAVC-S 422 10-bit has been a struggle and issue for Premiere Pro, which you require to create proxy to have a smooth editing flow. I just hope they'll resolve this issue in future updates. How about file size? In general, Apple ProRes 12-bit is 5 times bigger than the internal XAVC-S, which can cause a more costly maintenance and workflow since we have to deal with a bigger file size. So it falls to a question whether is it 5 times better than the internal XAVC? So we're going to bring you to a test. For the first test, we started off with a dynamic range test and see how much we can recover from the under or overexposed. As usual, we're going to start with a neutral exposure. followed by 1 to 2 stop exposure difference, and see what we can recover from there. Dynamic range wise, generally I don't see a big difference even looking from a scope. However, I do notice there's more dynamic range or sharper if we zoom in 200% and begin nitpicking. As you can see from the real building, ProRes RAW pick up more details. Even from an indoor scenario, you can see there's a little bit more details and contrast at the floor lamp. Honestly, no one is going to zoom in that much, so I wouldn't consider that as a huge problem. Besides the dynamic range and sharpness, I do realize that the internal 10-bit has a tint of purple, or you can say there's a little bit more green in the ProRes RAW. This can be a very subjective argument because I prefer the green tint, it seems a bit more natural to me. Aside from that, I do notice there's a little bit more color data in ProRes RAW compared to internal 10-bit, especially in the shadow area. We can't really tell from our bare eye, but through the Lumetric scope, you can really see the wider color range. To prove my point, we try to create a more vibrant scene. Honestly speaking, I'm pretty impressed with the internal 10-bit as well because there's no color bending, even though we push the saturation to 300%. But you can definitely tell that the ProRes RAW contains more color data and saturation when it compares to internal 10-bit. How about low light? We can pretty much get a fairly clean image from both files, but ProRes RAW appears to be a bit more sharper and noisier. Personally, I would pick the internal 10-bit when it comes to a low light situation like this, because I just prefer how the internal 10-bit handles low light situation or handle the noise. I will assume Sony has done some in-camera denoise when it's shooting in the internal 10-bit. Anyway, there's some tips for people who like to shoot low light situation like this, is you can always get a cleaner image once you hit the second base ISO, which is 12,800 while you're using an S-Log. There's no doubt that ProRes RAW 12-bit comes a bit more flexibility and advantages, such as more color data, sharper, more resolutions, but great result comes with a cost, and these are a few things you should consider. First is the 5x file size. Second, a bit more noisier image. Third, extra monitor, which can be an issue if you are going for a very minimal setups. Fourth, extra cost since you have to get an extra monitor and also extra storage. And lastly, no active stabilizations and gyro stabilizations. Me personally, I really enjoy using FX3 because both of the result, the image that comes with the internet and the ProRes RAW just looks amazing. You couldn't go wrong either one of it. And I'll definitely use both format in my future projects because they have their own advantages in their own way. So there we have it. I hope this video is helpful for you to make your decision in future. And remember to subscribe our channel and give us a like if you enjoyed this video. And as always, create and have fun. I'll see you guys in the next video.